Wrestling podcast never felt this great. Tables, ladders, chairs, they tell it all. From the highest highs to the lowest fall. Grit and glory tells from the ring. Every chant, every cheer they'll bring. T1 and the Duke bring the heat. Wrestling tales knock you off your seat. Tune in now, don't you be late. Wrestling podcast never felt this great.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the three-time award-winning podcast, Devon and the Duke. This is a limited edition series hosted by your main man, Duke Loves Wrestling, and of course, the five-time Hall of Famer, the YouTube sensation, the man that is so relaxed. He is smooth as butter. Brother Devon Dudley, what's going on there, man?
Hey, good, man. I'm a little sore, but I'm okay. I was in the gym yesterday and did what they call those women exercises. You know, like when you sit on that machine, most guys like to sit across from it, and the women do the hip thrust and all of that on
Oh,
there.
yeah.
So my behind with my trainer decided, okay, this is lightweight. I could do this. And I'm doing it and doing it. Of course, after the second or third set, I'm sitting up there like struggling, not realizing that I'm putting strain on my hip. And I got to the wrestling school yesterday. I'm sitting down. Everything is good. I went to go get up. I was like, oh, my God. I was
Bro,
like, what the hell?
You work
And
in
then I
different
realized,
muscles. You work in different
Yeah.
muscles, Devon.
yeah, my dumb ass forgot to realize that. And man, was I feeling it. Oof. And so this morning I get up and I'm looking like a 120-year-old man getting out of bed. I'm like, good God, this hurts. And that's the only part of my body. Like I did quads and hamstrings. Like, none of that hurts. But man, that hip flexor, wow. Oof.
Those are not muscles you normally work unless you're wrestling. So you can't just jump into it and start putting weight on it, bro.
Yeah, well, my dumb ass decided to do that, thinking I was 25 again. And long and behold, I'm barely walking now today.
That's so good. That's so good. You know, so the kids making fun of you. Like, Daddy, why you walking like that?
No, they're not making fun of me yet because I'm trying to hide it from them. So, I'm gritting the pain. And, my daughter said, Daddy, are you okay? Are you crying? I said, no, baby, I'm not crying. Daddy's just feeling good. And I'm praising the Lord, baby. I'm just happy. Daddy just happy. I'm just praising the Lord. And she said, okay, Daddy. She walked away. And I said, oh, Lord, please forgive me.
That is so great. That is so great. Oh, my God. You know what? You're never too old to learn, brother.
You got that right.
Never too old to learn. Hey, listen. I guess the AJ Styles retirement is legit, man. Did you know this?
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw AJ way before all of this happened. I didn't say anything because I was going through the airport. And I was in Atlanta. I had gotten off my first flight, was walking to my gate to go to my next flight. And I'm in Terminal B. I remember it as clear as day. I was in Terminal B. I was about to go down the escalator, and somebody said, Devon. I said, damn, that voice sounds familiar. I turned around, it was AJ. I was like, oh, shit, funny running into you here. He was like, hey, what's going on? Gave me a big hug. How you been? The whole thing when you haven't seen somebody in a while. We was shooting stuff. And he goes, how do you feel? He was talking about the match that I had. And he was like, man, you guys did great. He was like, how do you feel? I said, I feel great, AJ. I said, I came down on my shoulder a little bit and tweaked it to the point where it started hurting a little bit. And it got to the point where it started hurting real bad. I thought I might have done something to the shoulder, but then realized that I just messed up the ligament a little bit. And it was a slight tear. Because when you go down for 3D, I come down on the side to protect the guy as opposed to him coming flat on me. And I go to the side a little bit. So when I came down on the elbow/shoulder. And I didn't think anything of it because I've done that for years. But you're older, you haven't done it in years, so it happens. I was like, but other than that, I said I'm fine. He was like, oh, okay, good. He was like, you don't need to get back in there. And I said, no. I said, I'm done. I was like, I just needed that to show me that's I can still do it. Number one, and number two, I still had it a little bit. I don't need to get back in there anymore. I'm done. Plus, I promised my girls that I wouldn't get back in there. There's no need for me to get back in there. I'm okay. What's in the basement, as Sylvester Stallone would say in the Rocky movie, is no longer there anymore. You know, um, I'm happy with what I've accomplished. Me and Bubba had a hell of a run, and let's just leave it at that. I don't want to come back into that ring and mess up everything that we did for Bound for Glory. Because I was already a little bit of afraid that me coming back um, was going to hinder everything that I had done. Because some people come back and they shouldn't have, and then you get that they should have stayed retired and they shouldn't have came back. But again, I trained for 6 months for that, and I made sure that I wasn't going to have anybody saying anything. So I was like, AJ, I'm good. He was like, oh, good. I was like, what about you? I said, I hear there's rumors of retirement. He goes, yeah, I'm starting to lock this up. He goes, I think this is it for me. And I didn't believe him at first. And when I looked at him, he was dead serious. And I was like, oh man, I was like, you're not joking. He goes, no, I'm not joking. So I knew. I just never said anything.
You only got a couple years ahead of him in terms of wrestling years. You realize that, right?
Oh yeah, I do. I do.
He's and
And
I
the
and
thing,
he spent more time on the indies, so he might have wrestled more total matches than you in his career.
let me put it to you this way. AJ has a lot more um how do I say? AJ has a lot more battles underneath him than I do. And I say that because of the style that he's done. The flipping, the flying, jumping outside the ring, landing on the floor sometimes by somebody not catching him. AJ has done a lot of crazy stuff. And listen, I'm not selling myself short. I know I've done some crazy stuff too. But again, he really went out there and did what he did. So he's got a couple more years. So his body, listen, I'm just shocked that Jeff Hardy is still going. I mean, like Bubba said, how the hell is he still alive with all the crazy stuff that he's done?
Yeah,
It just amazes me,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And, so I look at it like, AJ has got a lot more war wounds than maybe I do. And again, I did a lot of crazy stuff in ECW. I know, I get it. But at the same token, when you're flying outside the ring and doing 450 splashes and doing all of that, it tends to take a toll on the body. Look at what they did back in the 70s and 80s. They didn't do what they do today. I'm very fearful for what today's wrestlers are going to look like 20 years from now.
Oh boy, yeah,
I mean, think about it. They said the same thing about the Attitude Era guys, and half of us is barely walking. Can you imagine what these guys today are going to look like or have to go through? The pain? People are getting, replacement hips. People are getting, knee surgeries, you name it, they're getting it. Think about what's going to happen. Listen, God didn't intend for our bodies to do what we're doing. I'm sorry. We're doing it because we enjoy it. It's legal, but our bodies weren't supposed to take this type of abuse. That goes for anything: basketball, football, soccer. You look at the basketball players, 90% of their knees are shot. It's sad to watch even Jordan now. Jordan has a limp, you know?
yeah,
Jordan has a limp,
yeah.
so it's like when I see Michael Jordan in videos, I'm like, what the hell? That's not the Jordan that I know of. But hey, Father Time catches up with everybody, male or female. I don't care who you are. And when it does, embrace it because it ain't gonna get any better.
Let me tell you something. I remember, and I don't even know how we were able to get this, but we were getting NWA Wildside here in Boston back in 99, 2000, that couple of years, 2001. I remember seeing AJ Styles versus a guy by the name of Air Paris, and they were doing all that flippy dippy peanut butter skippy stuff. It was crazy. It kind of reminded me of the old Global Wrestling Federation back in '92 when guys like Sean Waltman, he was a Lightning Kid at the time, him going up against Chaz Taylor. It's the same kind of concept where you have these guys who are kind of smaller at the time, but doing all of this flippy stuff. So if AJ Styles was doing that in '99, and we're in
He was.
2026 now,
Mhm. Think about it. He did it like you said. AJ started in 1989 doing all of that.
yeah,
We're now in 2026. He's still doing it.
still doing it. Yeah,
I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm not gonna lie. I'm afraid.
yeah, that's
I
fair.
mean, knock on wood. I hope that brother can beat the odds. But you and I both know. Look at some of the guys. Look at Ivan Koloff.
Yeah,
Look at Harley Race. Their last years building up to their time here on the earth.
yep,
They could barely walk. They were in wheelchairs.
yeah, and their
And
style
they
was nothing
didn't
like
do
his. Yeah,
90%,
yeah,
nothing like it.
yeah, yeah.
The
It's true.
70s and 80s were totally different than compared to today. So, what do you think is going to be of the people of today? I'm looking at some of my students, I have them on Instagram. This one guy, he's leg pressing 7 plates on each side. And I want to tell him so bad, please stop. You have no idea. Yes, you can do it. It's great. But put your pride aside. Stop with the 7 plates. Go normal weight because I'm telling you, your hips are not going to be able to take that. It's only a matter of time. You're in your mid to late 20s. Yeah, you could do it. It's all good. But what's going to happen when you get into your later years, your mid 30s and 40s, and you're wrestling? Eventually, the hip is going to give out.
Okay.
Who's the bodybuilder now that's barely walking? Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman, yeah, which is
To
crazy.
see to see him now
Yeah,
just breaks my heart.
yeah.
How he has to crawl basically on his knees and hands to even get up the stage to get to his seat for an interview. This is what these young people don't get and understand. And I tell my students, keep it with the basics. Stop trying to flip and fly. Make that something that you pull out of your arsenal every once in a while. But the minute you start doing it every match, you're asking for problems.
You're asking for big problems, and like you said about the 7 plates doing those leg presses. Every young person thinks they can do because they can do until it falls apart.
And once it goes, it
It
goes.
goes. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, Devon, I played football in high school. Best shape of my life, especially senior year. Um, first, freshman year of college, I'm out there
Hmm.
lifting heavy. And I ended up tearing my rotator cuff on my left hand side.
Yeah.
Didn't know it. I just knew that, something didn't feel right. So I took a couple days off. When I went back into the gym, I could lift 200 pounds easily with my right arm. My left arm couldn't do anything. And that's when I went to
Hmm.
the doctor and found out. Let me tell you something, brother. At 43 years old, this thing has never been 100% again. Never.
Yeah.
You know, that's not to say that I can't do, I could still lift what I need to lift and go about my daily business. But especially when the weather gets kind of crazy, it tightens up. Still feel pain. It is what it is. You know what I mean? But it's like, imagine if I didn't try to go out there and bench press 400 pounds like a moron. I would have never been in this position. You know, It's
As
like,
young guys, I want to say something to some of these young kids so bad because I'm in the gym and I remember what I did. I remember what I did in the gym and the amount of weight I was pressing. And I remember the old time used to look at me and say, young man, you better stop. I understand you feel strong, you feel whatever, but it's going to catch up to you. Trust me. And it did. My knees got bad. Um, Not only that, but I wore braces in the knee pad my whole career. And whenever I went in the ring, not having it because I forgot them, I felt naked without them on. And so from that point on, I would always, I forgot them one time. And I remember saying to myself, I would never forget them again. I never did. Um, you know, people don't get and understand the wear and tear that this business does to your body. And, you doing crazy stuff in there. Like I always said, and I said this in countless videos and interviews, Terry Taylor said that you have a bump card and you're only allowed a certain amount of bumps in your career. Choose those bumps wisely because once you clip all of those numbers, you're done. And I might not have done what AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy and them did, but the stuff that I did do made my punch card for my bump card go out quicker. I had no idea that I had degenerate disc disease. And I was told that if I got back in the ring, that each disc would start to deteriorate because of the bumping and all of that, which is exactly what happened to Hogan. He kept getting back in the ring, surgery after surgery. And I don't want that. Like I said, if Saudi Arabia called from WWE and said, hey, listen, we want to give you this amount to come in, if it was an amount that was worth it, then I would probably say, okay, maybe. But there's got to be something here to protect me even more than what I am going to be protected. It's more of a show. It's more once you get to my age, it's more of a show than an actual physical um part of it. Like Bubba. Bubba gets in the ring now, even sometimes the singles, and he'll tell a young guy right off the bat, slow down, there's no reason to go fast. And the kid, he's excited because he's in the ring with Bubba. And he's like, hey, I want to do this, 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 this. Bubba goes, nope, stop. This is what we're doing. Bubba protects himself. And you have to. You can't go out there and be crazy. Listen, Darby Allen, say his name, from AEW that does those
Darby
crazy
Allin.
jumps.
Darby.
Darby Allen.
Yeah.
I am so afraid of that brother. I'm so afraid to see what he's going to be like in 25 years. The bumps that he's taking right now, and he's such a talent. He's such a talent. I love watching him work. I love his character. I love him as an individual. I met him a few times, very well respected. Um, Always says hello when he sees me, always shows me respect. Never once has that brother ever been disrespectful. And, again, he's such a genuinely nice person that it scares me what he's going to be in 20, 25 years because of the crazy bumps that he's taking.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Darby Allin is that it doesn't seem like he has any regard for his body when he throws himself out there. He's going full blast.
Yeah.
It's just I've never seen anyone do it. I've never seen anyone attack the air the way that he does.
I thought
It's
Jeff
just
Hardy was that crazy, but I think he beats Jeff.
he beats Jeff 100%. This dude, he's just going. Like
Let me just say this. I don't mean to cut you off. The first time I actually saw fear in Jeff Hardy's face or a resemblance that he was human at Bound for Glory when he jumped off that ladder onto me and his head hit the back of the ladder.
oof.
And I saw his face and read his lips when I watched the back. He grabbed the back of his head. He knew he was hurt. He grabbed it and said, am I bleeding? Am I bleeding? I saw the fear. For the first time, I saw his reaction after one of his crazy stunts. I had never seen that before.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you, that scared me because I ain't never seen Jeff sell anything. Not one thing I've ever seen Jeff sell. And when I saw that, I went, yeah, I'm done. This is over. So for Jeff to sell and to do that, yeah, it got me like, yeah, no, I'm okay.
Yeah,
And I remember,
man.
I remember saying this a while ago. John Cena did a hip toss, a basic hip toss to somebody, tore his pec muscle.
Woo.
That's how easy getting hurt in this business is. Something that we've done over and over and over again. Just a plain hip toss. I'm going to go hip toss the guy and tore the muscle.
Man.
Batista going to mush Bubba in the face with his right hand. And he hadn't even reached Bubba yet. And as he started to extend his arm out, tore his tricep.
Mm. Oh, shoot. Vince McMahon tearing both quads.
I don't know what to say about Vince doing that. I mean, if he would
Just
have walked
walking.
down the aisle, if he would have walked down the aisle just a little bit more calmer and not so angry, maybe Vince would not have torn his quads. That was a freak accident, man.
Who the hell tears both of them?
I don't think Vince could do that again if he tried. But then again, who the hell would want to do it?
Yeah. It's just crazy. It's absolutely nuts. But nah, man, we got to be careful out there, everybody, because you only get one body. I don't care what nobody says.
Mhm.
You only get one, you know. And it's not until you get a little older. Once you're south of, or once you're past 35, you ain't young enough where you don't feel it anymore. You start to feel all of it, You know,
Yeah.
you wake up and suddenly your ankle is swollen out of nowhere. Your knee ain't working right, and you got, like you said, you limping around. You're like, what the hell happened? You know,
Yep.
that ain't no joke, man. That ain't
Hey,
no
I
joke.
remember watching some of the older guys talk about their ankles and their knees and their back and their hips.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just remember because I remember saying, no, that's not gonna be me. I'm gonna take care of my body. I'm gonna stay in the gym. I'm gonna continue exercising, eating right, do that. I don't care how good you eat. I don't care how much you train. It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
unfortunate, but it's gonna happen.
Inflammation is a real thing, man. You know,
Oh yeah.
that's a real thing. For real. Listen, you brought up Jeff Hardy, and I'm glad you did, because I was talking to our good friend Nick over at River City Wrestling Con,
Hmm.
and he said something really interesting to me. He said, Duke, this young guy in the WWE, Javon Evans, he is the modern day Jeff Hardy. Not just in terms of wrestling style, because clearly he's been influenced by Jeff. You could see it when you see him in the ring. He has his own spin on it, but you could see that, yeah, there's some Jeff Hardy in that kid. But his cool factor reminds me a lot of Jeff Hardy. And when Nick said that, I said, damn, that's a very good point. Because I've been trying to put my finger on it. I said, what is it about this kid that I like so much? What is it about this kid that everybody likes so much? He just has a good mix of a little bit of everything, just like Jeff did, at such a young age that you can't help but root for him. You know what I mean? And for a kid that young to be on the main roster in the WWE, he's going to be in an elimination chamber.
How old
This
is he?
kid's, I think he's only like 21 years old, man. And I think if he's 21, he just turned 21. He's a young dude, bro.
It's kind of like Jeff. Jeff
He's
was
a
young.
young
Remember,
dude.
Jeff had his first match, I believe, with Scott Hall, and he was 16 years old and got the crap beat out of him.
Yeah. Yeah, they lied about he lied about his age at WWE. He was only like 16 years old. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, he's 21 years old, Javon Evans. Right now, he's 21. And he's been in the company
Oh
a couple
wow,
years
okay.
now. Can you imagine that?
Hmm.
So to
Man.
make it that far already, and he's been in the company 2 years, like that's crazy. That is incredible that this kid could accomplish that, right? So I was a little disappointed, and everyone's been on me. Duke, are y'all going to talk about it? You and Devon going to talk about it? Yeah, we're going to talk about it. I was a little disappointed when I saw some comments from our good friend Kevin Nash in relation to Javon Evans. Now, let's be clear about something so there's no confusion. Devon is friends with Kevin. I've interacted with Kevin online, and we talk politics, stuff like that. We follow each other. I don't dislike Kevin Nash. I'm a fan of his body of work for the most part. And I don't think Kevin Nash necessarily is a problematic person compared to most of his peers through the years, quite frankly. With that said, though, and this is very important, and this is why Devon and the Duke matters so much, because we can take these subjects and really peel them back and apply it to real life. You can be the biggest ally for over 40 years, 50 years. You could be the biggest ally. You could say and do all the right things. You can protest. You can call attention. Behind the scenes, you can advocate. You can do all those great things. And yet you could still mess up. And you could still say the wrong thing. But more importantly, you could still have a slanted view of things that you end up telling on yourself because you got too comfortable.
Mhm.
Kevin Nash, on his podcast, was speaking about Javon Evans, right? And he says, and I quote, "He's an incredible athlete. He's a bit too Mr. Bojangles for me. I wish he were a little bit more urban. I understand it's Netflix, and I understand there's a big world out there besides the one that 66-year-old Detroit boy Kevin Nash wants, but I just want him to have a little bit of an edge. He can strike. He throws a good punch. Take your time and throw a good punch. Maybe put 2 or 3 together. Something where you tell me, if this shit is real, all this athleticism I have, I can use. Not, if this is real, I would cartwheel off your body like you would never see. He sells good. I mean, he does everything good." So that's what Kevin Nash said. That's the quote there. I liken it to the Hollywood Shuffle, which, I reminded Devon of that movie. Shout out to Robert Townsend, one of the greatest filmmakers and actors of all time. The Hollywood Shuffle is a movie that pokes, it examines Hollywood and how black actors are treated, especially by these white movie makers and producers who have a habit of telling black talent, you need to act more black. And when they say that, it's a stereotype that they want you to portray. It's their vision of what is black, as if black can only be one thing, or it can only be the thing that they think it is, which is ridiculous. Kevin Nash fell into that trap. Now, do I think the guy is a racist? No. But I do think he has a bigoted blind spot if he feels comfortable enough to tell a black talent to essentially, when you say be more urban, what the hell are you saying? You're telling them to be more black the way that I think black should be. So I got a problem with that. Now, to Nash's credit, he did apologize. But shout out to Kev on Stage, the famous comedian. He pointed out that within Nash's quote unquote apology, he said a whole lot of other stuff that kind of convoluted the apology and made it seem like it wasn't much of an apology at all. And in the end, I think Nash took that down. So there's a whole pride issue there too. Just say sorry, bro. Just say, you know what, I said something I shouldn't have said. It wasn't right, and leave it there. Even if you're an ally, even if you got it right 99 times out of 100 in your lifetime, you could still make a bad mistake, which again, it reveals that there is a blind spot there. Be a man, own it, put in the work to correct it, because nobody wants to hate you, bro. You're a Hall of Famer. We love you, and we know you're an ally. We know that you're always out there talking about injustice and things of that nature. But man, this was a disappointment. That's my perspective, Duke. So make sure you quote me. That's my perspective. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Devon because you actually know him. You worked with him. You know Nash personally. What did you think of this whole fiasco here?
I firmly believe that it just might have been using his words poorly in this sense. Um, Excuse me, I was coughing. I've been with Nash on the road. I've traveled with Nash. I've eaten with Nash. We've had good times. never any bad times, never heard him once make a racial joke that was bad taste or anything, or not even a racial joke in general. I firmly believe that Nash was probably speaking his mind on what he would like to see, but I think his choice of words might have been not the right words to say in terms of that. Um, Again, to be more black, you can't really say to somebody to be more black. That's like saying to tell a white person, hey, can you be more white? Well, what is being more white? What is being more black? And I think when people use the word be more black, it's kind of like, okay, you need to be that that typical stereotype, you know, speaking whatever, yo, what's up, what's going on, things like that. Um, the way the public perceives African American people a lot of times. Um, you know, I think black people get that all the time if they're not street smart or hood or what have you. You're not really black, Well, what do you mean I'm not really black? The color of my skin is black. If I'm driving down the highway in Alabama and a redneck cop pulls me over, you know, he's gonna look at me as being a black man. Not that I'm not really black. Trust me. I just feel, and I don't know, Duke, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's hard for me to speak on this because again, I know Kevin. I know what he's all about. And again, not one time have I ever heard a racial joke or anything that came out of that man's mouth during the time that we spent together on the road during the Attitude Era, in TNA, in Japan. I've never heard him say anything derogatory about anybody in that sense. To me, Kevin always reminded me of, and I said this to you earlier, um, before we went on the air. He reminded me of one of those guys in the frat house. He likes to joke around. He likes to, you know, make practical jokes on people and things like that, but never malicious in a way to hurt somebody. And he's always has stuck it up for the underdog. That's one thing I will say about Kevin. He's always stuck up for people that were considered the underdog, or even in that case, the minority. So I think it might have just been maybe a bad choice of words. I don't know. When I heard about it, I was like, oh God, here we go. Because I knew there was going to be some backlash from this. I already knew. And to me, it wasn't like he said he didn't like him, or dislike him. He wanted him to be more urban, more black. But again, we have to stop as a people saying what this person has to be more like in terms of a race. You have to be more Asian. You have to be more Latino. You have to be more black. You have to be more white. If I said to somebody, hey, what is wrong with, I'll give you a prime example. John Cena, when he first came in, he was doing a rap. Oh, he's trying to be black. Why is he trying to be black? Well, he's doing rap music. He thinks he's black. I don't think John thinks he's black. I think John knows he's white. So you're telling me that if you're rapping and doing that, that means you want to be black? I think if we stop doing that, maybe we wouldn't take offense to so many things that people say. Like, for instance, Morgan Freeman said it best. He was doing an interview with 2020, and you might remember this, Duke. The guy who asked him the question said, how can we get rid of racism? And he said, simple. You stop looking at me as a black man, I stop looking at you as a white man. Start looking at me as a man, and I look at you as a man. That's how we stop it.
Yep.
Stop defying that I'm a black man. I stop defying you as a white man. Do you think we should have a month dedicated solely to black people? In other words, they were talking about February, of course, Black History Month. And he goes, and Morgan Freeman said, no, I think we shouldn't have a month dedicated to black people. I'm sorry. I don't think we should have February as the month for black people. He was like, in my opinion, I think every month should be dedicated to black people. I think every month should be dedicated to white people, Asian people, Latino people, because we've all had a hand in doing what we're doing. He goes, but I get it because of how black people were treated and what it was done and how we were erased from the
History
how we
books.
were erased from society and tried to thank you. I couldn't come up with the word. We were erased from the history books and we weren't acknowledged for the things that we've done. I can see why we have Black History Month, but why is it the shortest month of the year? Why is it like that? He was like, we can go on and on in days to talk about that, but this is what I think how we can cure all of this. And when he said that, I was like, wow, I never looked at it like that. I really never looked at it like that. And I started having a different perspective. Like, for instance, you and I are talking, and let's just say, we saw somebody walk into the store and he came out, and it's obvious that this person stole something, or it's obvious that this person did something wrong. Oh, no, no. Let's just say this. The person comes out of the store, gets into an argument with somebody, and hits the guy and runs. If you and I are talking, we'll sit there and go, yeah, man, Duke, you had to see this guy. This guy came out of the store. He was pissed off. He was angry. This other guy jumped in his face and he hit him. He hit the ground. He was gone. But then Morgan Freeman said, but when you ask somebody else about it, let's just say who's not white, who's not black, why do we have to distinguish the color of the person's skin that came out of the store? Why can't you just say this guy? You understand? Am I making sense?
You're 100% right. It always irritates me when people assign race to any story they're telling when race has nothing to do with the point of the story. I can't
Like
stand it.
if I'm talking about Kevin Nash, if I'm talking about somebody, in the wrestling world, I'm not going to say, oh, well, this white guy, did this, or this white guy did that, or this black guy, or this Asian guy. Unless you ask me what nationality they are, I will tell you the nationality. But I'm not going to distinguish in my conversation that, oh, yeah, a black guy came out of the store and he was pissed off and he was mad and he punched this guy, because a white guy can do that too,
Wait,
an
wait, wait,
Asian, a
wait, wait.
Latino.
Devon, you mean to tell me that you're not like Disco Inferno? You're not going to call me the black guy with the podcast?
Here we go. Here we go. Duke will be trending with what he just said, and I'll be the one to say, I'll be the
They'll
one that
quote
they
you,
said that said that. They'll quote me for saying it.
the black guy with
Oh
the
God.
podcast. It's like
Oh God, you gotta
tell
love
on
it.
yourself.
That
You know?
that just, yeah, and that's exactly what that is. So, you
Yeah.
know, Kevin, I don't I like Kevin. I still like Kevin. I think maybe the words were, could have been said better. I don't know how you could have said that better, but I think it could have gone a different way.
Well, take the
Maybe
damn
I just would like
urban
to,
out of it. Just take the urban out
right,
of
well,
it. And
right. Just say, hey,
Bojangles, you know,
I like to see you being more,
aggressive.
aggressive,
Yeah.
and add to it. I agree with that. Yes,
Yeah.
maybe
And
that could have been a way of saying
we all agree that Javon Evans needs to
it.
be careful with all the flipping that he's doing because these are high risk moves. He's a young guy. We want him to have a long career. There's no question about the fact that we all feel that way, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
the irony of the issue is that Nash's assessment overall is correct, and he's a Hall of Famer. So I don't expect anything less from him. He was also a booker. I don't expect anything less from Nash. His assessment overall was correct. But the whole be more urban garbage, that's where it's like, where are we going with that? You know what I mean? Let me just say this, Devon,
Hmm.
and I agree with you. Again, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And I want to make that clear to everybody. I'm not saying that, okay, well, Kevin Nash needs to be stamped. He's no good. Get rid of him and all. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I take the totality of that person and what he's done and how he's contributed, and we're not going to get to a point where it's that. But there is a blind spot. And we need to hold our brother accountable for that, just like I expect to be held accountable too. Devon expects to be accountable too if we make those kind of mistakes. So no one is exempt from that. But let me say this. Here's what bothered me personally about the issue. And for all of you out there, you got to understand something about me if you're new to me. If you're an audience member who has started listening to what I do because of Devon, and there's many of you out there, which I appreciate, by the way. Devon has brought a lot of folks over to the Duke Loves Wrestling family, so to speak, with this Devon and the Duke thing. So I appreciate that.
You mean the black guy helped another black guy with a podcast?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly. But I have a lifelong documented history. This is not me blowing smoke. I can prove it. I got a lifelong documented history of advocacy, of fighting against racism, of making sure that the most marginalized communities are given as much of a fair shot as possible. That is my life's work. So even in podcasting, if you look at my history, you'll notice that. And you know, I ran myself through AI and stuff like that to check myself too, and to say, yeah, you spent more time than just about anybody over the past decade talking about these issues and making these issues a consistent theme in your work. Because this is who I am. It's not a gimmick. This is legit. I care about this stuff. And I think that's part of the reason why Devon decided to combine forces with me too, because he cares about this stuff too. So here's what bothered me. Javon Evans is a 21-year-old kid in 2026. At 19 years old, he was able to get an opportunity in WWE because he was tearing it up on the indie scene. Jay Malachi or Malachi, I might pronounce his last name wrong, and I apologize, brother. But that's the name he had on the indies. I think that might be his real name. He was killing it on the indies. So WWE gave him a chance. He goes into NXT, and he gets over. He gets way over. He gets way over to the point where he could not be denied, and that's why they moved him up to the main roster. That kid did not have the roadblocks that Bobo Brazil, that Tony Atlas, that Carlos Colon, that SD Jones, that Butch Reed, that Ron Simmons, that Booker T, that Devon Dudley had to endure. That's not to say that the kid never experienced any racism during his journey. That's not to say that the kid was never slowed down during his journey. But my point is, Javon Evans is the manifestation of every single black wrestler that has ever existed, who ever had to endure something like one of the top executives in the company looking them in the eye and saying, I do not like you because you're black, which is something that Devon Dudley has experienced, and we've documented well on this show. So for anyone to tell that young man and anyone else in this generation that they somehow, some way need to be more stereotypical, brother, I'm standing firm and I'm telling you, correct that. Because that's bullshit. And y'all know I don't swear like that, but I'm doing it now. That's bullshit. You cannot talk to these kids that way. Because people like Devon and Booker and Bobo Brazil and Tony Atlas and Butch Reed and Ron Simmons and The Rock, because of what they all had to endure to make it possible for a Javon Evans to be where he is today. That kid is probably going to wrestle at WrestleMania at 21 years old. Don't you ever tell that kid he needs to be anything other than what he is. Correct me if I'm wrong, Devon.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm looking at this too strongly.
No. I mean, again, it's the words that were chosen. I think Kevin might have could have used better of a situation because, again, if this was done 30, 40 years ago, there would have been no issue.
Yeah.
But
But
nowadays,
he wouldn't be this far 30, 40 years ago. He wouldn't be that far.
Yeah. Right. But my point is the language that was used to
Sure, sure,
what he was trying to get across is what I'm trying to say. So,
sure.
again, it's one of those things where, nowadays people are being held accountable for the things that they have said. And whether it's been in the past, whether it been, you know, uh, in today's world, it doesn't matter. People are starting to be held accountable. And this is one of the things. So, it's unfortunate, that Kevin got mixed up in this, but again, you got to use your words wisely. Nowadays you can't pretty much do things like that anymore.
No, and for somebody who's educated and who knows better and who's an ally, I'm going to say it again, who knows better because Kevin knows better. Military guy, he is world traveled well before wrestling. I can't let him off the hook on that. But again, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So for all of y'all that are looking for blood on this, you ain't gonna get it from me. That's not what I'm seeking out. I'm just saying, which I would say to anyone. I don't care how much I like you. I don't care how much I dislike you. Everybody gets treated the same way with me. When you're wrong, and I say you're wrong, and then we correct it and we move on. That's the way it is, bro.
Right.
You know. But and then the worst part about it is during Black History Month, like you said, Devon. I mean, we shouldn't even
Yeah.
have to have this, but we have it because it's still necessary. Because again, look at stuff like this. You know what
Uh,
I mean? This proves why we got to have Black History Month because look at that. Even an ally can make that kind of mistake. So anyway, I appreciate the fact that that all of you out there wanted us to address that issue because it does give us an opportunity to frame it properly. And I know that Kevin is thoughtful enough that to hear from his friend Devon and to hear from me, and I know he respects me. You know, we had a conversation, a political conversation one time, and he was loud about something, and I had to correct him on it because that's literally my expertise. And he was like, "Oh shit, yeah, you're right. I was mistaken on that." To
right.
paraphrase it. So I know he knows that I'm not a fool. I'm a person that knows what he's talking about and am
I
thoughtful
will
about it.
I will say this. If something's brought to Kevin's attention where he's wrong, he'll be the first to admit, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But he
I
kind
will
of
say
blew it
that.
on
He's
this
done.
one though, Devon, though. He didn't his apology was kind of weak, bro.
I didn't hear their apology. What was it?
Well, he said, "Yeah, I shouldn't have said it that way and I could have said it better." But and then he starts making excuses. And it's like, bro, don't make the excuses. Just say, "Yeah, I messed that up. You're right. I shouldn't have said that." And let's focus on what matters most, which is here's this young kid who's doing positive things and we want to continue to support him. That's all he had to say, you know but he let pride get in the way, which is weird. And I understand there's a lot of pressure online that none of us have ever faced before. It's a new frontier where you have people from all over the world burying you on everything that you say. They pick you apart, and I know that can be frustrating and sometimes you want to lash out. But bro, when you're wrong, you're wrong. Just own it and move forward, bro. That's it. you know
I've just started to really take time to think about things before I say it now.
Yeah.
Because like I say, they'll rip you apart.
And they always do. They're right on
And
time. They're right on time with
hmm
it.
yeah. I mean, regardless of what it is, even me telling the JR story, I had to make sure that I was telling an accurate story
Yeah.
or making sure that, nothing changed, anything like that, because nothing did change. What I felt and what I went through is what I went through.
And they were all like Devon's story never changed. I even ran that through AI, which checked
hmm
everything you have ever said in history that was made public that can be Googled. And it said your
But what gets
story
me,
never changed, you know?
here's what gets me. I never called JR a racist.
Yep. Yep.
I never said that. What I said was there were some racist remarks said to me.
Yep. Yep.
I never said, if you go back and look at the interviews, before this go viral or what have you, what I'm about to say, I never called that man a racist. I said there were racist stuff that was said.
Now, in fairness, some of your
Um,
peers who experienced their own things directly did call him a racist.
Right. But I just specifically said there was racial things that was said. And again, when you ask me, has I ever experienced racism? My answer to you is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Here's
Mm-hmm.
why. I told the story. But when I look at some of the things that have been said during that story, it just gets to the point where I'm like, did you not listen to the story? Not only that, but I did not want to come out and say this because I knew the backlash that was going to follow after that. So, but when it was when what was said in that interview was said, it just ran like wildfire. So it came out. And what am I gonna do? Say no, it didn't happen? I've never been known to be a liar, and I'm not gonna start. And then I saw something that said, "Oh, Devon wants to squash beef with Jr. because he doesn't, but what beef is he squashing when he was the one that said that Jr. was a racist because of what he said? I never said he was a racist. I said there was racist stuff that came out of his mouth, but I never said he was a full blown racist.
Yep.
And I think that's what people are misunderstanding. Not to mention, if a question is asked of me, I'm going to answer it. Whether you like the outcome or not, I'm going to answer it.
But you know what,
So,
though, Devon, the tragedy of that whole situation is that even after you revealed that it was him, you were still, and even to this day, you still have been very careful. It's not like you've given the guy a knockout blow. You know what I mean? You've been very careful to do all that you can to still protect his dignity to a certain degree. You're just telling the truth. This is what happened to me. And fine, you guys pulling it out of me, that's who inflicted it on me. But it's not like you said, okay, now you guys know that he did that to me. Let's all go get him now. You've never said that.
no,
And, you
I
know?
never said that. I even said, like I said, I said, you know what? It is what it is. It's
Yeah.
one under the well. You got to learn to forgive. I can't go on the air and say, let's go after him because he said what he said. And then, the next point, I'm sitting up there going, let's forgive Hogan for what he said,
Yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. How can I
Yeah.
go and do that and then not say the same for JR?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And you
I,
said that from
again,
day
I
one.
don't,
You said that from
yeah,
day one.
I don't hold a grudge against this man.
Yeah.
What was said was said. Now you move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I ask the court? Did I inflict the question to be addressed on my show like that? No, I had no idea it was coming.
Mm.
And then when I basically said what I said, it took a life of its own. You know, could I have said, we're not going to talk about that now? Sure, I could have, but why? Would CNN stop it from happening if a question was said? No. Would Fox News stop? No. Why should I? I'm not saying I'm CNN or Fox News by any means, but I'm saying if I'm doing a show, I'm going to do a show,
Yeah.
and I'm going to ask. And if the tough questions are asked, then I'm going to answer them. I am not
Truthfully.
going to not ask them exactly. So again, I'm not trying to say anything bad or wrong about that man. I just said what happened, and that was it. And I was willing to move on. But again, it took a life of its own. So and then the comeback of what he said afterwards
Yeah.
basically started the ball rolling even more.
Yeah. It was rotten.
And
It was rotten.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
again, and I, not to keep beating a dead horse, but to say that maybe I'm not happy in my career as a broadcaster. Number one, I'm not a broadcaster. That's one. Number two, I do a YouTube channel that I'm very happy with. Got over 200 and I think 11 or 200,000 followers. I think 210,000 followers, and growing. And I've only been doing it for a year and a half. And he was like, maybe he's not as successful as Bubba. This and that. Well, Bubba's been doing it for over 10 years. I've been doing it for a year and a half. So I'm not going to jump to the numbers that Bubba and Dave LaGreca have on Busted Open. I'm not going to be able to do that within a year and a half. Is it possible? Absolutely. Did I? No, but did I have success with it? Yes. But to make that comment, that was uncalled for, and I had to address that. Now that's when I started to address things
Yeah.
because I felt that was wrong. You didn't have to go there because I wasn't trying to bury you. Look at the interview instead of taking people's word for it. Find out for yourself what was said and how all of that came out. And then tell me if you still feel the same way. You
In
know,
fairness, I think he started to backtrack once he did start looking at it and did realize, oh yeah, there's witnesses and et cetera. That's when he started to backtrack, right?
and the thing about it was the witness wasn't African American, they were white.
Yeah, yeah.
So and again, and I said this before in the interview, if the witnesses were black, it's like, okay, Devon's trying to pull the black card.
Hmm.
Number one, Devon wasn't trying to pull the black card again. And I'll say this, and I'm done talking. I'm done saying it. I didn't ask for the subject to come up. It came up. That's one. Number two, pulling the black card for what? My career in the ring is over. It's done. I'm doing what I'm doing now and having fun. I don't have to answer to nobody. I don't answer to WWE. I don't answer to anybody. I'm my own man now, and I do what I do the grace through the grace of God. So think about the fans. Think about what you're saying and how you're interpreting things that are given that is feeding to you before you start leaving comments and saying things out of your mouth that you have no idea. Go back and look and see what was said. So then that way you can have a better understanding of what the conversation and how it got brought up.
Well, let's put a button with this. It's sad that you could be legitimately, if you and Bubba are not the greatest tag team of all time, you're at least in the top three, and I don't think you're three. There's the Road Warriors, there's the Dudley Boys, and there's the Hardy Boys, and everybody can debate what the rankings are, but those three tag teams are the greatest of all time. To think that you could be that great, yet still have to go through something like that. To think that Javon Evans can be so talented that he could be where he's at such a young age and in such a short amount of time. Most people will never do what he's accomplished already in 2 years, right? He's been wrestling for longer than that on the Indies, but on the WWE level, in 2 years, look at where he's at. To think that he could do all of that and still be told, "Hey, bro, that's not black enough for me. You need to be more black." And the man said urban, which is used interchangeably. That's shorthand. People are trying to play games with words. So make sure we're clear on
Well,
that, bro.
if he would have used the word black, that would have opened up a whole nother can of
Yeah,
worms.
that we'd be having a different conversation for sure. For sure. It would be a lot
Hmm.
less forgiving, I'll tell you that much. But to think that, you know, you could be so excellent and still have to deal with that kind of petty nonsense. That's why a show like this is necessary, because we're going to break it down and we're going to dig into it and we're going to talk about it. And we're not trying to hurt anybody, but we damn sure are going to educate everybody. And it's incumbent upon you out there. You either come for it or you don't come for it. But you can't say we didn't tell you. And you can't say we didn't explain it to you. And you can't say we weren't clear. And you can't say we weren't detailed about it. That's the reality here, man. Two black
Hmm.
guys with a podcast.
You beat me to it. I was about to say that. You beat me to it.
Listen, that fool never lived that one down. What a joke. What a joke. What a joke. Anyway,
Uh,
listen, man, I'm going to tell you right now, Devon. I know I say it a lot. I'm a sentimental guy. I'm going to keep saying it. It is such a pleasure and such a joy to be able to do this show with you because it's so important. And when we see things like this happen, we realize how important it is. And, I know that on your end, there's a lot of other stuff mixed in with the comments that you receive and stuff like that. So you don't get it as direct as I do. But all I hear from the listeners is thank you. Thank you guys for covering that. Thank you for breaking it down the way that you did. I never thought of it that way. Oh my God, you made me realize I've said some things I shouldn't have said, or I was viewing this totally wrong. Constantly getting those kind of comments from people. You know what I
Right.
mean? And you being who you are, I mean, you have one of the top wrestling schools in the world. You are an educator, you know. Yeah, I've been in management, I've been in consulting all these years. I know how to break things down in a manner where people can understand and retain. The fact that we
Hmm.
can combine forces and do this, it's a special thing, man. And I just want to continue to give you your props um, for doing this because, quite frankly, here's the last part. It is kind of sad that we're that necessary, that we have to be the educators on stuff like this because grown folks should know better.
Yeah,
I'll leave
they
it at
should,
that.
but they don't.
But they don't.
And you know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But they don't. But they don't. Anyway, what's the best way anybody can reach you, brother? Especially on the YouTube and all that good stuff.
Well, go to Devon Dudley YouTube channel. Videos are coming out left and right, new ones. Very good response to the last few that have been out there. One on Spike Dudley, which is doing really well. Um, and we did another one on does how to is the pay good when you're WWE champion? I put my 2 cents in on that. Let you know how it was for Bubba and myself as champions. Totally different pay scale than being world champion, but we got a good chunk of that. So again, watch the video, like and subscribe, and leave your comments down below, please. Also, you can text me on Instagram at Testify Devon, as well as Twitter. I'm starting to go on Twitter a little bit more. I am not getting vocal on Twitter, but I'm starting to go on there and look and see different things that are on there now. And no, it's not porn. So stop.
I was waiting for
Um,
that.
Jesus.
I was waiting for
Mistake.
that.
I like button is pushed by mistake one time, and brother can't live that down. Jesus.
I was
Sorry,
waiting for that.
Samuel L. Jackson.
I was waiting for that. And listen,
uh,
I don't mind throwing this teaser out here. We can't get specific, but I'll throw this teaser out here. There is a major media show that is very interested in having a conversation with Devon and putting it out there for the world to hear. So stay tuned. We're not going to let the cat out of the bag just yet, but stay tuned. Um, this is going to be historic. I'll just put it like that. It's going to be historic. And we don't get there without your wonderful support, all of you folks out there supporting Devon from day one throughout his entire career. This transition into podcasting and what have you. You've continued to support this man, and it's special. You know what I mean? And the world is taking notice, which is fantastic. So thank you, all of you out there, for that, of course. And as always, Duke Loves Wrestling on Facebook, on Gmail, Duke Loves Wrestling at gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show, get your question ins, all that good stuff. Coming up on the 500th episode of Duke Loves Wrestling. And I got some decisions to make. Who's going to be the guest for episode 500? 10 years podcasting. Who's going to be on that
wow,
episode? So,
that's a long time, Duke.
man, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was explaining to them because I have a special private group, a Facebook group that this show is built off of. It's most like it's my focus group, really, and I keep it small, less than 400 people. Devon, I have posted in that group every single day for the past 10 years straight. I've never missed a day. Not even once. I've been
Mm,
sick. I've had, family tragedy and all the ups and downs that life gives us all, bro. I've never missed a day posted in that group. Happy birthday shout outs to folks, posting about wrestling, talking about things, putting the shows out and all that stuff. This is a labor of love, man. It really is, But I don't get Devon and the Duke without putting in that work. So
Yeah.
there it is, you know. But from the bottom of my heart, I really, again, appreciate all you folks out there. We all have people in our lives that we love that may do the wrong thing. Hell, we do the wrong thing. We all, none of us are immune from that. We don't live in glass houses over here. So we got to hold each other accountable, especially if you love each other. That's the way it is. And don't be afraid of having these dynamic conversations, because that's what it's all about, man. And that next generation, they're watching us. We have to be the proper example. You know, you got any word of the week for us there, brother?
Yes, I do. Make sure I do it right. Please keep in consideration when you're talking about a black guy's podcast with the other black guy helping him out. Just make sure you're legit in how you perform it and say it.
Woo. Woo. Testify.
My brother.
Strictly for the culture every day. Step in style in your unique way. Patterns and colors so defined. All about the perfect line. Be yourself, let your spirit fly. In this fashion, you'll touch the sky. Strictly for the culture, brand so fine. Dress to impress and show your shine. Strictly for the culture, every day. Step in style in your unique way.
Visit www.strictlyfortheculture.ca.
Backstage whispers and the crowds roar. From matching giants to legends of yore. Devon's wisdom and Duke's keen view. Every episode feels like it's brand new. Devon and the Duke bring the heat. Wrestling tales knock you off your seat. Tune in now, don't you be late. Wrestling podcast never